sorry, I know that this is made for all of you tall folks. Do I have to turn it on? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Governor Evers and Secretary Timberlake, for joining us in Wausau to recognize and support the efforts that our emergency responders put their hearts into every single day. I also want to acknowledge and thank our friends and partners from the Burnhamwood Area Emergency Services, the Central Fire and EMS District out of Abbotsford, the Edgar Volunteer Fire Department, the Hatley Area Ambulance Service, the Mosinee Fire District Ambulance Service, and the South Area Fire and Emergency Response District. These teams aren't just our neighbors, but they're also our partners and teammates when we have emergency situations that require mutual aid. So I'm sure Chief Bartek can, and maybe will, tell you all about the substantial increase in calls to service that our department responds to, and his team will be able to talk your ear off about the kinds of training and equipment that this transformational funding will help us with, but I'm gonna focus on why this matters so intimately to everyone in our community and even beyond. So the fire team has already heard me talk about this before, but I'm so grateful for their dedication to excellence and training every day. 2 months ago, I celebrated what I'm calling my dad's second birthday, and that's because in June 2021, on a sunny Saturday on the shores of Boom Lake at Rhinelander, I got a text from my mom. She said my dad was acting weird and that he couldn't stand up and that he was breathing funny, but that he was also telling her not to call 911 because he didn't want to pay for an $8,000 ambulance ride. But thank goodness that my mom's tenacity won out over my dad's apparently fanatic dedication to fiscal conservatism, because she stepped outside of their condo and called 911. And then the ambulance came and gave him his 2-mile ride, but shortly thereafter he got an even more expensive ride, a helicopter ride from Rhinelander to Aspirus in Wausau. He was having a heart attack and he was in the fight of his life. They zapped him in the emergency room more than once, and he described an out-of-body experience that I can only understand to be reminiscent of somebody on the edge of death. But that whole ride, he was being helped by an amazing team of paramedics, one of whom got their chops right here at the Wausau Fire Department. And this team's training, this team's dedication to excellence, and this team's skill, that all added up to me being able to have my dad for hopefully a lot longer, and I am forever grateful. So just like our neighbors, our team is responding to more calls than ever before. We're still working through the ramifications of this pandemic, and all of these teams have been on the front lines of it every single day. So I'm so excited to have this opportunity to celebrate and give more resources. To these teams who are truly changing the world every day and fighting on behalf of everything we know and love. So with that, I'd like to pass the mic over to our wonderful governor, Tony Evers.
Thanks so much, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. It's great to be back in Wausau today, and I want to thank Mayor Rosenberg and Fire Chief Bartek for the good folks here at Station Number 2 for hosting us today. And I really, and the chief told me about this, I really love that prairie you have out there. Waiting for a comment? Anyway, every Wisconsinite, this is a bottom line issue for me, every Wisconsinite should have access to a quality, affordable health care when and where they need it. And obviously the mayor just talked about that with her father. But the rising cost of health care, or a lack of transportation, or a lack of child care, or health care workforce shortages cause too many Wisconsinites to face barriers to accessing that really important care. Now, one way we can break down those barriers is by access to telehealth services. Last week, I announced $2.5 million in telehealth grants are headed out the door to behavioral health providers across the state. And that includes folks serving Marathon County, like North Central Healthcare and the Wisconsin Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. These funds will ensure that even more people can meet with a behavioral health provider no matter where they live. But while we've invested in expanding telehealth behavioral services, we also know that this pandemic only further exposed serious concerns about our healthcare infrastructure and capacity, especially in our rural communities. In Wisconsin, we rely on nearly 800 emergency medical service providers. More than half are either operated exclusively by volunteers or with a combination of volunteers and paid staff. These folks are doing outstanding work, but many have been doing it for years, and it's really quite difficult to finding new volunteers to step into these important roles. It also hasn't helped that for a decade, local governments have been asked to do more with less. Since 2011, state aid to communities has gone down, even as costs have gone up. Help from the state was cut by almost 9%, while public safety costs have increased more than 16%. So that's a 25% difference there. And between these rising costs and a lack of available staffing, some have even gone without ambulance services, left with no other option but to hope and rely on neighboring providers. That's why when in 2022, at my State of the State speech, I announced that we would be investing an additional $30 million in our EMS service providers, which included $8 million extra from federal funding to supplement the state's funding assistance program, which supports public ambulance service providers, including volunteer fire departments, nonprofits, and counties and municipalities. And today I am in Wausau to announce that through these investments, Marathon County is eligible to receive more than $292,000 in supplemental funding to support, stabilize, and expand EMS services in the area. That's great news for Marathon County because it means these 12 local providers eligible to receive a total investment from the funding assistance plan of more than $373,000, which is more than 4 times what they would have originally received to serve the people in north central Wisconsin. And I'm glad to announce that the Wausau Fire Department will be receiving up to about $33,000 of that funding to continue their good work. So as mentioned before, the bottom line is that no one should be calling for an ambulance or to wonder whether help will come. Our first responders play an absolutely vital role in the safety and security of our communities. And I'm glad to be here today to provide the support for this important work that they do every day to serve their neighbors and their neighborhoods. So on behalf of all of us here, thank you to the first responders, the EMS providers, and healthcare providers in the room today for the high quality care you provide and for all the good work you do to build a healthier, safer, and stronger Wisconsin. And with that, I will turn it over to Wausau Fire Chief Bob Bartek. Bob?
I guess I owe ice cream. That's the first time I've ever been introduced by the Wisconsin governor. And every time you do a first year at Wausau Fire, you have to buy ice cream. So a lot of ice cream is going to be bought today. Thank you, Governor Evers, Mayor Rosenberg, for the introductions tonight. On behalf of the men and women of the Wausau Fire Department, I want to welcome you to the beautiful Wausau Fire Department Station 2. We've been in the station about 2 years. It's a state-of-the-art facility that we're very proud to have at the gateway on the western side of our beautiful community. We're honored that you chose Wausau to announce these transformational EMS grants that are going to affect communities across Wisconsin. Not just us here in Wausau, but every EMS agency in the state of Wisconsin is extremely feeling strained right now. Recruitment and retention issues, funding issues. There's always a new problem every day that we come to work to solve, just to go about doing the good work that we do serving our communities. The dollars that we're receiving today are going to be far-reaching into right into the street. It'll go into the work that our Wausau paramedics do on an everyday basis by providing them with vital equipment, medical supplies, cutting-edge training, filling some critical shortage on staffing, and partially will assist us in purchase of a new ambulance. We're blessed here in Wausau to have an incredibly supportive community. This station that we're standing in is a testament to that, as is the brand new ladder truck that's right behind us. When we put our hand in the air and say we need something, our community rallies. behind us and provides that for us. They support our fire department and our individuals in the department very much. But yet there's only so many dollars in every budget year, and every year we have to make tough decisions about what we can buy, what we can afford, what's essential, and what we can get without. So these tax dollars, these grant dollars that we're receiving, along with the philanthropy of members of our community, continue to support us to fill those voids that we have. And I have story after story how just-in-time money has come to us, as this money has, when we have a real critical need. It's been the greatest privilege of my professional career to serve this community as the Wausau Fire Chief. Every day I have a front row seat to the actions of our firefighter paramedics on the street. They are the light in the darkness for those who are in need. On average, 19.8 times per day, someone in this community puts their hand in the air and they cry for help. And it is our Wausau firefighter paramedics that respond to meet that need. It's my job as their chief to put behind them the training, the equipment, the skill sets, every need that they need to meet that individual's needs in the community at that point. I will leverage this entire organization, the $8.5 million budget, 65 sworn individuals at that moment in time, and every resource that we can call upon to make one positive impact in a life that day, at that moment in time. And sometimes we forget in the volume of calls, and we're going to do near 7,000 calls this year, that 7,000 times that someone in our community has asked for help, and we've done our very best to meet that help. So these grant dollars are going to go a long ways to help us with that. We're extremely grateful for them. We're extremely grateful that you chose Wausau Fire Department to come and make these announcements. Very historic for us. As I said, I've got to buy a lot of ice cream. You know, I think that the overall support and relationship that you've built with the city of Wausau, I saw you here, Governor, just a few weeks ago filling potholes. Today you're here supporting our fire and EMS providers. Thank you on the behalf of the citizens of the community of Wausau. So now I'm going to quit rambling. I'm going to turn it over to our great Secretary of the Department of Health Services, Karen Timberlake.
Thank you, Chief, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm really here just to help connect the dots between everything that you just heard. You know, one of the things the governor really tasks all of us with in his cabinet is making sure that we are connecting the dots across all state agencies and state programs in the service of the great work that goes on in local communities like this one that we're in today in Wausau and in the broader Marathon County. So for us, you know, the reason that it's important to us to be participants in this event and to talk about these funding opportunities for EMS services is what the mayor shared in terms of her family's story. And as the chief noted, that story is repeated dozens of times a day and thousands of times a year across all of these communities. So we know through this funding assistance program, we know that we need people all across our state to have the best trained, best equipped emergency responders available to them when that call goes out and when they need it. We also know that first responders, as vital as they are, can't do it alone. And that's why we have partners like North Central Healthcare and other great healthcare providers and behavioral health providers all across our state that are making sure that people can get the care and the support they need both before that call gets made and after that call has been handled and been responded to. So from our standpoint, the work that we're talking about today, taking what was already a $2 million funding opportunity for EMS and with the governor's leadership increasing it by $8 million so that a total of $10 million is going out to EMS services all across our state, that's a critical part of protecting and promoting health and safety of the people of our state, which is what we're all about at the Department of Health. So thank you for having us today. Congratulations on these grant awards. Congratulations on the great work that you're doing, and I'll pass it back to our governor.
Thanks, Secretary Timberlake. And Chief, I was actually in Wausau last weekend for the Hmong Festival. And maybe next year you might be, if you're there, if you could stop by, because at the beginning of it, they always have quite a ceremony, kind of like the Olympics. And this year, in the past, I've been able to take their torch and put it over here and light something. This last time, I had to climb a ladder with this torch and reach over the side into this cauldron to light it. It wasn't.
We can get a ladder truck.
Somehow I just felt a little out of sorts doing that. But that said, it's always great to be back in Wausau. Thanks so much for all of you from the surrounding area. We did whatever we could to use federal funds to make a difference in people's lives here in Wisconsin. And obviously the pandemic exposed a lot of the issues that we face as a state. But that said, at some point in time, soon, the federal money will be gone. And the last thing I want for the state of Wisconsin as governor is to see that 25% differential go back in place, where we have less money coming in and more money are coming into localities and more money needed by the localities, especially as it relates to health care and the services you provide. So what we will do is, to the best of our ability, is convince people in Madison that this is a right investment for us. It's an important investment because it's an investment in saving lives, and that's what you're all about. And I thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I just have a question. So you commended the good work that obviously this department here has done, and you obviously oversee many fire departments throughout the state. Can you just elaborate a little more about what this particular department has done so well?
What has done well in the local? Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's a prairie outside. I'm gonna say that again. Get a laugh from somebody. But no, this particular department and the Wausau Fire Department has done a great job of making sure that the people of Wausau are safe and get quick responses, and that's part of their job. But I know there's all sorts of folks from rural areas outside of Wausau that are here today, and I just have to recognize how difficult a job that is. You're dealing with a lot less available resources. You have issues around volunteers, and I'm just here to say that North Central Wisconsin, especially with great providers like North Central Health, are doing a great job saving lives, keeping people safe in their homes. Thank you. With that, oh, I'm sorry.
What's the next step after this process? Now they have the funds, what's the next step?
The next step for me as governor is to make sure that in the next budget, we're able to utilize funding that should come from the state to be coming to municipalities, whether it's a shared revenue or the resources that fund the projects around EMS and fire departments and police departments in the state. We just have to narrow that gap. We can't every year expect people to do, at the local level, to do more with less. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. And so the next step for me is the next budget is to make sure that we have adequate resources for our municipalities and our townships in the state of Wisconsin. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you all.